You're listening to Impolite Society with Laura and Rachel.
I made it through the wilderness. You know I made it through. Didn't know how lost I was until I found you.
Girl, you got some pipes.
Oh, thank you. I try.
Whatever. How many times did you practice that? Tell the truth.
I mean, I sing all the time, and that might be one of the songs that I sing. And if you're hearing me sing, that means you are listening to the Impolite Society podcast.
That's us, ladies and gents.
We're two friends who take turns asking each other the questions that would not fly in polite company.
And I'm Laura.
I'm Rachel.
Good luck telling our voices apart.
I don't think we've ever introduced Who is Who before.
No, we've definitely done it before, but I think it was older. Yeah, so our topic today...
It's a good one.
It's a little bit sexy. We've been teasing that we're going to talk about sex for a while, and here we are.
It's a little sultry. We're feeling a little hot under the collar. So
on
that's
a Wednesday night. Booyah.
Yes. You know, I'm sitting here. I just had 2 servings of stew for dinner. Ooh. Is there anything to get you more in the sexy mood than stew?
Gin. That's what I'm drinking.
Gin. Yes. Yes. So why are we feeling so sensual tonight?
Sensual. Is it my sexuality?
I hope you're ready for all the little 30 Rock references we sprinkle in that we don't even call them out.
It's just part of our lexicon.
Exactly. So the hint of what we're going to be talking tonight is actually in the song that I sang, which all of the songs that I've sung so far for the podcast openers, which I don't know if that's going to be an ongoing thing, or as long as Laura indulges me, I will keep doing it. But they tie into the theme. I don't think I said that the last few times.
I did not know. I just thought you enjoyed singing, which I also enjoy singing. I can't think of a song that ties with this, though.
Okay, that's so obvious, though, because the song that I was singing
was...
You don't know that song?
No. I mean...
Oh, dear God.
What was it?
Like a virgin.
Oh! Okay, no, yeah.
Touched for the very first time. There you go.
Virgin. Guys, we're talking about virginity.
We're talking about the cherry popping.
The V card.
Punching
Punching your V card, yeah.
Yeah, you punched it. Well, don't punch anything that's involved in that. But punching the V card. Popping the cherry. Deflowering.
Deflowering. That was, that was the flower. Oh, the flower. There was a lot of talk about the flower in my household.
Oh.
Right? So, yeah. So, virginity, it's a big thing. I mean, we have a lot of words for it, as we've just demonstrated. Mm-hmm. We talk about it a lot in high school, certainly. I talked about it almost endlessly. There's a lot of porn around that's having to do with virginity and, virgins getting their cherries popped and, blasted or whatever people use. Whatever.
No blasting.
Very aggressive words that people use in pornography. They're all doing that to virgins.
It's very violent. But I will say, you're right. It's maybe something that doesn't have a lot of real significance, but something our society puts a lot of emphasis on, as told by every teen movie from 1994 through 2016.
I think rewind that to 1974. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, that was definitely a thing.
As soon as those poodle skirts came out, everybody's like, well, no, do you know what it was? Is because before that, everybody was married as they were teenagers.
Nobody saw ankles before a poodle skirt. They're like, ooh, ankles.
Oh, they saw some thighs in the 20s,
Oh, that's true.
But you got married if before that, the teenage years came around and it became a hot commodity or a hot topic, because before you got married when you were 14. Ugh. And so it's there was really no time. Who had time before that? You're up milking your cows. You're going to bed at dusk. I'm kidding. Yeah. It's what unites us all really across time and space is that we all like to get down.
Yeah. Everyone likes sex. That's why we're doing a podcast about it, right?
Well, yeah. So we talked about liking it. Everybody likes it, but some people don't like other people thinking about it. Is this a really rough transition, isn't it?
No, it's fine.
To kind of the next section where, who doesn't like people thinking about sex, or the parents, or the people who are considering having sex.
Yeah. What did your parents tell you about sex growing up?
It was a lot of nothing, honestly.
Really?
I don't think we ever had the birds and the bees discussion, which just really explains how repressed I am to this day.
You guys didn't have like health class and like...
Oh, I learned it there. Yeah, for sure.
You didn't like have to talk to your parents about it? Like maybe this is a Catholic school thing, because in Catholic school we had sex ed that we had to talk about, and then we would have to bring these sheets home and like talk to our parents about them and have our parents sign it to be like, yes, we talked about it. I know, it was awful.
No, there was nothing like that.
Absolutely terrible. But my mom, so my mom was just like, pretty much no, never, don't do it. Boys are terrible. They only want one thing. Protect your flower at all costs. It's your delicate flower. You don't want to give it away.
Okay. This is starting to sound familiar. My mom said, boys have 2 brains and only enough blood to work one at a time.
And you know what? I kerfuffed it at the moment. It's not 100% wrong, guys.
I know, but okay, it's really good that my parents didn't waste a lot of time trying to teach us about the birds and the bees, because it wasn't like there was a tons of dudes sniffing around the old household back then.
My parents just had me really scared of boys. My mom did a really good job of scaring me.
Yeah, I think I had to have gotten scared somewhere along the lines. I'm not sure where I picked it up, but I definitely got an impression that it was life-changing and life-altering, and it was a really big deal, and that, that you're damaged after, because there was a lot of fear involved with it, and there was a lot of, once it's over, it's a big deal.
Yeah. I guess, okay, so this kind of segues into the next question. When did you lose your virginity?
Is this the rude question? Is this our official impolite question?
This is the official impolite question. When did you lose your V card?
Like age? Date? Time of day?
Both. All 3. I want to know the details. I want to know where, how, who.
It was an afternoon.
Oh.
In the year.
Afternoon delight.
It was definitely in the year 2010, maybe early 2011.
I just graduated college, everyone.
So did I. I was 25 when I lost my virginity. No, just kidding.
Lies.
I was a teenager.
Teenager, how old?
17. Which, if my parents have made it this far, let me tell you, that's much older than you'll give me credit for, because they all thought. I had this boyfriend, and this is actually funny. This is one of the few times my mom did talk to me about sex, is one time she caught him sneaking through my window. I was 15 at the time, and one of the things she did say to me was, I hope you used a rubber. And she used the word rubber, and it was pretty funny, because we were not having sex at that time. We were young and in love, and we just wanted to spend more time together and talk. Yes, as you do. But it was actually that same person years and years later. We dated all throughout high school. So
that's sweet.
It was something.
So do you feel good about it? Like you're happy with? I mean, when you look back on it, it's not like, at least for me, it's certainly not my pinnacle sexual experience, but I feel, how do you feel about the general experience? How do you feel about waiting? You're with this person for 2 years. How do you feel about the fact that you waited? Are you semi-pleased with your sexual debut, which is a word that I've come across in my research? Your sexual debut.
I mean, I think it was fine. I'm glad we didn't happen any earlier. I definitely was not ready for it before. I maybe jumped the gun, I guess, a little bit there too. I don't think my motivations were good, but it is what it is, and I don't feel bad about it.
Okay.
Wasn't like I'm writing the great American love story either. It's just like everybody. I feel like it's just what it is, folks.
So I mean, I feel like that sounds pretty typical then. You're not like you like you said, not the great American love story, but you don't regret it. So it's somewhere in between.
Yeah, it could have been better, could have been a lot worse, you know? If it would have been waiting until college, who knows, it would have been a whole nother...
Drunk at a frat party and all that.
Yeah, something like that. At least we both really liked each other for a considerable amount of time, so that checks the boxes.
Yep.
What about you?
I was also 17.
which I will talk about. Apparently, we're both very average.
Yep, I was 17, and it was my senior year because I didn't turn 18 until after my senior year. So I lost my virginity to Austin, my husband.
Oh, my God. It like makes me sick to my stomach. No, just kidding.
And it was not a plan. Like, it was not like, oh, I'm going to marry this guy. It was not like that at all. It was, I just wanted to wait till it was somebody that I really loved.
Yeah.
And I didn't love anyone before that.
You guys are just so, God, it makes me ill.
I mean, I had lots of boyfriends, and I was the quote slut of our group. I made out with anybody and everybody. Like, on a Saturday night, I might be making out with 2 or 3 guys in the same night. Like, I was a little bit
called
skanky.
You a skank.
Yeah, totally. But I knew where my limits were because I just wanted that first time to be with someone that I really cared about and that I knew really cared about me. And so that's why I waited. My 2 best girlfriends had lost their virginity already, maybe at 16 or like maybe like 6 months to a year before me. And, you know, and it was all to their, you know, steady boyfriends. So it wasn't like anybody was slutting it up or, you know, drunking at a party. Yeah, I know. I'm shaking my head at that too. Maybe that's me going back to my high school self. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I just wanted to wait until it was something that I had really strong feelings about. And I did. I waited, and turns out we got married. Many, many years later.
Oh, my God.
12 years later.
That's a whole nother... There's so many layers to this. But we're just going to focus on the first part. 0 hour.
0 hour.
From the rest of this. So, how did you feel? I mean, obviously, I'm guessing pretty good considering you're still together to this day.
Yeah, I felt pretty good about it. It was at my house, and my parents were out of town. I don't know how they left me at the house because I don't remember my parents leaving me like alone overnight at any opportunity. It was always go stay with your grandma. But apparently they did one night. And yeah, Jimi Hendrix was playing, and we wrote, and I lit candles, you know, because I am a teenage girl.
Yeah.
So it was all like, I knew that tonight was going to be the night, and I lit candles, and it was like a whole big thing.
Oh my gosh, straight out of a Meatloaf song.
Yeah, pretty much. Paradise by the Dashboard Lights.
Tonight is the night. Wait,
yeah.
Is that from that, or is that from somewhere else?
I mean, I'm familiar with the Paradise by the Dashboard Lights, but I don't know the lyrics by heart. There's definitely like the baseball thing where they're like rounding
home.
Third. Yes, I love that song.
It's good. It's good.
I love you till the end of time.
And now I'm praying for the end of
the
time.
End of time.
Good. So, I mean, that's our experiences. They're not that like exciting. I mean, okay, I'll speak for myself, but it's not like that exciting. You're not like, it's definitely not surprising.
Well, so we can segue now into the research portion about virginity and things like that. But before I do, I want to share one of my favorite quotes about virginity. And it's from the movie What We Do in the Shadows. And one of the vampires in the movie, it's a mockumentary about vampires, if you guys haven't seen it. And he says, you know, what's the deal about virgins? And the vampire explains. He's like, well, imagine you're about to eat a sandwich and it looks so good, but somebody fucked it first.
Yes, because they're talking about why they prefer to eat virgins.
Yes, exactly.
And that kind of ties into what we're going to talk about, which is why we've deemed virginity to be important. Is it really important? And all the layers of that flower.
Yeah. Well, the flower, the deflower.
It's like a rose. It's got a lot of petals to peel back.
At least 4 petals. Labia, majora, minora. No? Too literal? Okay.
No. Yes. So today we're talking about sliding into home, but if you're interested in hearing more about rounding real bases and other sports-like activities, we recommend that you check out a podcast called Scoreboard. Scoreboard is full of entertaining segments like the Offside Report and Shot Clock, and offers fresh, insightful takes, as well as some honest conversation, which we always appreciate, on the latest and greatest stories in sports. So if you're looking for a fun and friendly chat about sports, check out Scoreboard by JJS Media, available wherever you get your podcast.
virginity. It's got a lot of historical importance from way back in the day.
Real quick.
What?
Should we define what virginity is?
Well, there is a lot of different opinions on this. This is what I read in my research, that some people consider oral sex to be virginity, but and some people consider, and just as a kind of disclaimer, what we are talking about here, at least is in our experience, is two straight women, and
not together.
Two straight women and their experiences with men, rather than any kind of homosexual relationship, because that's defined differently in virginity. And also, important thing here is our experience, and what we're going to be talking about is consensual. There is a lot of research out there about a large percentage of people who lost their virginity through non-consensual sex, which is heartbreakingly sad. But yeah, so we're just going to be talking about kind of that general, the most common experience, which is, consensual. Heteronormative and consensual virginity. But so the generally accepted is penis in vagina is the loss of virginity. And some people are like, oh, I can still have anal sex and still be a virgin. Or if he didn't come, it wasn't sex. And I'm like, no.
It doesn't count if it's just the tip.
Yeah, exactly. That's the classic line, right? But I mean, for my purposes, I define virginity as penis, vagina, insertion.
If it's what you learned about in health class.
Exactly.
That's kind of where the general, like you said, consensus. Mm-hmm. And in this modern day and age, we all have to define it for ourselves in different ways.
Yeah.
The one thing I never got, though, was like, if Jesus does not want you to put a D in
a V
in your V, then he definitely does not want you to put a D in the A, That's just no way.
No, I think there's an anal loophole in the Bible. I don't think that they specify.
I mean, unless there's like a whole chapter that we don't know about where Jesus is like, in the butt? Yes.
I don't think Jesus talks about it at all. I think that's more like Old Testament shit where they talk about.
Yeah, I don't think Jesus gave a fuck. He was unmarried, He's going around. Okay, before we go down blasphemy, let's talk more about, Bible days, that seems to be tracing back to like where virginity comes into play. Obviously, the Virgin Mary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And there was a lot of stuff about like when the word first appeared, but like even when it first appeared in, whatever BC, like it was already something that was regularly known. Like it's a concept that is pretty solid throughout organized civilization, I guess.
It's a tale as old as time.
Exactly. And a big part of it, it is religion, right? And so there's a Bible verse about it. I didn't pull that up because I don't really care.
We don't want to read that.
Yeah, I don't really care.
We've already kind of broached non-consensual. We had done all the downers we need for this episode.
But I think that really the virginity is looked at for, of course, we're only talking about virginity for women, right? Because that's exactly what people care about.
Yeah, nobody gives a shit if a man has... Nobody cares about his flower or his stem or whatever.
A woman is judged by, her virginity or lack thereof, hence the queen title of Virgin Mary. And, people wanted a virgin when they got married. When women were bought and sold for dowries and things like that, you're a virgin. That's the assumption that I'm not purchasing, quote, damaged goods. So there's like thousands of years of this shit, right? Like how do we undo this in the year 2020 or 21, I guess. I don't know.
And it's tough. So, and then stop me if you plan to talk about this later, but so do we think there's like an evolutionary biology factor to this? Because it seems to be such a big part. I
am going to talk about that later. Okay, so hold that thought.
So tell me more about virginity.
So a lot of my research, looking at the high status of virginity, and we think about it like, okay, back in the day, years ago in the 50s or the 1850s or the 1750s, and as you keep going back, but that's not really true. That even now, today, virginity has a high value to some people. There are whole industries around virginity and specifically the hymen. Yeah.
I'm making a face because I'm apparently very squeamish.
So
Again,
there
repressed.
is such a thing that you could, because the thing is, like, pop the cherry, right? The blood.
That does refer to a breaking a hymen,
Yes.
which would, in theory, bleed after you've broken it.
Yes, which doesn't happen for all women.
Yes, if you, use a tampon, ride a bike, ride a horse. Those are all things that could potentially have broken your hymen before having penetrative sex.
Yes. So there is an industry of artificial hymens that women, like plastic, like things filled with red dye, that you can insert in your vagina so that your husband makes sure that he sees blood and like is like, yes, you are pure. This is choice. And there is a surgery, a plastic surgery called hymenoplasty that's popular in France and Europe among Muslim women, so that they reconstruct that so that, again, when you're deflowered on your wedding night, they have the bloody show, which is actually a different technical term for pregnancy, but whatever. I'm just going to use it. Did you ever read Memoirs of a Geisha?
No, I did not. I watched the movie, though, and it was very scandalous.
I think they skipped this in the movie that is really fucking creepy, where the guy pays a ton of money for this geisha who just made it onto the scene to take her virginity. He takes, and this is a fictional story, granted, but I feel like it's got to come from somewhere, that he takes a cotton swab and dabs her hymen blood, like her virgin, like, popped her cherry, and like puts it in a vial with his collection of like other, and I was like, oh my god, I have the heat so bad.
Super creepy.
Serial killer level shit. But so when it comes to virginity, even the way we talk about it, right? And I mean, you talked about a lot of these. I mean, I've said them too, is the words that we talk about. So you lost your virginity. He took your virginity. You gave it up. You were deflowered. It's this
like taking
concept,
from
taking and losing and taking.
Yeah.
So it really puts women in kind of like this passive tense, of something that's done to them or have something to lose, whereas men have something to gain. And I mean, I'm not big about talking about the patriarchy, but I feel like this is one where I can see your point on
What do you mean? You can see my point. That our whole world is built by the patriarchy. It's why we constantly hate our bodies and don't get paid as much. Anyways, but in this sense, yes, this is like patriarchy 101. So I'm glad that you can see this.
It's deeply ingrained. Ingrained.
Yes, we hate women, and we hate them especially when they break the norms that are set. Which is why I ran around as a teenager calling girls skanks who probably had not had sex either. It's just like the idea.
Well, it's probably because you had some sort of, you probably had some sort of like conflict with them. Like,
she's thinner than me.
And that's the default insult. Yeah, and that's the default insult is, oh, you're a slut, you're a skank. This is like I don't know. This is what I wonder. Like, have times changed? Like, are high schoolers nowadays calling each other sluts and skanks? Because I know I did. No, they don't. That's good. That means progress.
Yes, they're very sex positive. I mean, but you also can't really, I don't think young people are having sex as much as it was before because everybody's on their phones and stuff.
Yeah.
And also, how are you going to know? You can't really call anybody anything because you don't even know what gender they are anymore. So that's also part of it. I don't know if I should call you a slut or an asshole or a douchebag. Who knows? Because you're your own unique snowflake. No, just kidding.
Well, so speaking of high schoolers, so looking at the average age that Americans lose their virginity, and again, defined as vaginal sexual intercourse, it's both 17 for men and women. She's licking her bottle of wine, guys.
My aerator. It looks like a dragon. I'm kissing the dragon. So I don't make a mess.
It's 17, and that surprised me. I thought it would be lower, and that makes me happy. I'm glad that the average age is 17. I mean, that means you have some that are younger and some that are older, but most, kind of average out or fall into that 17-year-old range, and that made me happy.
I feel like that's a respectable age.
Yes.
I feel like it's also trending up but I have nothing to back that up.
Well, the research that I came across was not super current. I think the latest CDC data was, I think, 2017. So it's a little dated, 4 years or so. So, I mean, I'm only as good as the first page of Google results.
Oh, yeah.
So
nobody could be held to a higher standard than that.
Exactly. But it was also interesting. I also looked at the wiki page on virginity, which I know is not exactly the best source. But again, we're talking first page of Google results here. And
I think Wikipedia is legit. I believe it.
There is a really interesting chart on that page talking about Europe and sexually active 15-year-olds in Europe, like, because that tends to be like generally the age that you're not like being molested, but you're, you know what I mean? You're like a teenager. It's like semi-acceptable to start your, again,
for
quote,
sure,
sexual debut. And it was really interesting because in Ukraine, 47% of Ukrainian boys at 15 are sexually active, which made my jaw drop. But then only 25% of females in the Ukraine said that.
So do you think they're all having sex with the same girl, or do you think these girls are lying through their teeth? Because they're probably lying.
Or they're having sex with older women or prostitutes or something like that. Because, I mean, that's the old trope, right? Like, oh, the uncle or dad takes you to the brothel and you lose your virginity there. That is an old trope. You're making a face like you don't know what it is. But
I think you mean trope.
Trope? Trope?
Trope.
Trope. Trope.
No, it's trope. It's trope.
That's the trope. Yes, that's exactly what I said.
The cliche.
Yeah, there you go. That's better. And another one was in England, which I thought was interesting. 34% of boys at 15 said they were active. 39% of English girls. Higher percentage of girls. Very interesting. And then Spain was the lowest in all of Europe, and I think that makes sense. Catholic, and 17% for boys and 13% for girls. It was just a really interesting chart to look at.
If I had to guess why the British young women were having more sex, I blame it on Bridget Jones and her singleton lifestyle. Glorifying it. Shagging.
Yeah. So
all those teenagers, those British teens in 2017 are like, what the fuck is Bridget Jones?
Yeah, nobody's. I feel like no teenager read British Jones. British Jones?
We did.
Bridget Jones. I did
Bridget,
too.
Bridges. Bridget.
British Bridget.
Bishop. That's from the second movie, where they also sang like a virgin. Do you know what we call that? Synergy.
Don't you ever disrespect Synergy.
That's another 30 Rock one for you noobs. So yeah, that is interesting that Spanish is lower because they're so...
You think of them as so sensual, right?
They're free with their hips is all I gotta say.
Mm-hmm.
I've been watching some Spanish trap music, some Bad Bunny, some Rosalia.
I don't know what any of that is, but I get what you're saying. I think like tango and, salsa dancing, a lot of hips.
Yeah. It's just they know what to do with them. They're
Except
just,
for
I guess,
they don't know in the bedroom what to do
or
with
like
them.
you said, the Catholic part of
I
it.
think that's probably what it is. It didn't specifically say it, but I think so. But there was another study that I came across, which was really, really interesting. And this was not a wiki article. This was like an academic article that'll be linked in the show notes talking about first intercourse and asking men and women, how did they feel about it? Was it physiologically satisfactory? Was it psychologically satisfying? It was really interesting. And I think that no one will be surprised that women were less likely than men to say that it was physiologically satisfying in their first go ahead. Women are like, no, not at all. And like, it was like a complete converse answer. It was like men, 100% greatest thing of my life. And women were like, not so great.
Well, okay. Two things. First, I have to backtrack what I said. Bad Bunny is not Spanish. He's Puerto Rican. Looked it up to make sure.
Okay.
I like to keep my cred on things that are cool.
Your street cred. Got it.
B, do you think that, A, there's some physiological differences, right, between both of them? I mean, they say popping the cherry, talking about blood. I mean, that's not a comfortable situation.
Well, and most women don't orgasm through vaginal intercourse. Most women orgasm through oral sex or other clitoral stimulation.
Yes, but beyond the physical part, is there also that moral part, that value that we put on virginity that makes it harder for women to enjoy their first time because they're constantly thinking, I can't undo this. Did I make a mistake? Did I wait for the right guy? Do I really want to be doing this? There's all this kind of clouding the judgment. Meanwhile, the teenage boy's like, can't believe this is fucking happening. Hell yeah.
Yeah, so that is kind of addressed in the study. So they talk about, that degree of psychological satisfaction amongst women, and being in a committed relationship with the partner, it greatly increased the psychological satisfaction among both, but higher among women. Another thing to kind of go with that, people who were more satisfied psychologically by the situation, they had a smaller age gap. So it was somebody who was age appropriate for them, within a couple of years, as opposed to someone 10 years older than them.
Of course.
They use protection, so you can take that psychological burden kind of off yourself. They were also uninfluenced by drugs and alcohol. So you feel more sense of agency and ownership of the situation, rather than, oh my God, this is this thing that happened when I was drunk. I didn't have any control over it. It was like, no, it was a conscious choice. They were more likely to rate it as psychologically satisfying.
Which, if this tells you anything about my teenage years, it never even occurred to me that drugs and alcohol would have influenced that decision because we were so square.
Oh, geez. I did a lot of drinking in high school. It was
not a part of my life.
That's sweet.
I know.
But so the takeaway of that is, for your first sexual encounter, and honestly, I think that it just in general, you're more likely to feel good about these encounters if you are in a good relationship.
You trust the person.
Yeah.
You care about the person.
Yeah.
So then I was going to ask you, on both the physiological and the psychological, you said you felt good about it because obviously you're married to the dude. But what about the physical side?
It was uncomfortable. I mean, it wasn't like excruciating pain. Like, I think in the back of my head, there was some sort of fear of that. Like, it was going to be like giving birth or something. And of course it wasn't. It was, a little stingy, a little uncomfortable, tight space, never been invaded before.
Yes, they don't prep. There's no way for a woman to know, right? I feel like with young men, they're constantly involved with their instrument,
looking for something to stick their instruments in.
Yeah, I mean, couch cushions, water worms, anything that is
tube socks.
Yes, so they kind of have an idea of what to expect.
Yeah, and I feel like women, I mean, like, I don't know about the rates of masturbation among teenage girls, but I mean, like, so if you're just doing it, yourself, you got like what, 2 fingers? I mean, that's not exactly.
That was impolite.
Well, I'm just saying that
we're getting raunchy.
Unless your partner has, a very slender penis, you're not exactly prepping yourself properly.
Well, that's just every woman's dream.
But I don't think a slender penis. I don't think that is every woman's dream. But I don't think there's many teenage women who are breaking out, the cucumbers or the.
And you don't really have access to funds and places to procure anything to do that.
Spencer's Gifts when I was in high school, man, that was the place to go.
I guess they didn't card you. I guess there's no age to buy that.
No,
kind of
it was
stuff
the back. It was the back section of Spencer's. It had black lights and a bunch of like edible underwear and quote personal massagers. That's how they're built.
I'm just saying that. Edible underwear seems like you're just begging for some kind of health repercussion.
I'm just like, stick a fruit roll up down there if that's what you want to go with.
A fruit roll up dental dam.
That sounds delicious. I love fruit roll-ups. So I just so back to the research. I just think most people said in the study, okay. So of the people that they surveyed, I don't remember the exact number, but most of the people said that they were in a consistent relationship or steadily dating when they first had sex. That again, made me happy. So we have the age of 17, I feel like, is an appropriate age. Most people were in a relationship of some kind when they lost their virginity. I think that goes back to what we were talking about, feeling trust and things like that. And why I wanted to wait, which was just to feel like it was reciprocated.
Okay, so then that leads me, and maybe this gets to the philosophizing at the end, and maybe I should save it. But you're saying it makes you happy they waited till it was an appropriate age, that is an age that you deemed is appropriate, and was somebody that they care about and have mutual respect for, which again isn't necessarily necessary. This is something that we're taught to believe is important because of our Puritan Christian values.
I mean, that very well might be true, but I'm going to smack into some more research here.
Yeah.
About
smack that research.
How did losing your virginity, what does it say about you? What does it mean for your future? There was a study done on this as well.
Future.
So studies looking at sex at a young age, which we consider under the age of 15, back to the kind of the wiki article, under 15, and for some other studies is considered, quote, too young, right? A young age is under 15. People who were sexually active under 15, they raised their risk for mental and physical health difficulties, such as depression, eating disorders, unplanned pregnancy, and sexually transmitted diseases. So the studies have shown, and I'll kind of dive into that a little bit later.
Can I share my initial reaction?
Yes.
I'm going to say correlation does not equal causation in this.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Woo!
I was thinking about that when I read this research, that and the articles that I read, which are all pretty interesting, that we'll link in the show notes if you're so interested to dive into. They said that there was a lot of different reasons for this, or possible reasons for this. It's a Psychology Today article. It's really interesting. But so I'm going to touch on that again later. But so then the converse side of that is that people who waited later to lose their virginity, so people at the age of 20 or higher, they were significantly different than the other groups that they studied. They had more money, more education, fewer partners, and were happier in their marriages. So there could be a lot of different reasons for this. I mean, we look at both of them, right? So there's a possible explanation of, maybe they had really solid parental attachment, right? So they're reluctant to, quote, leave the nest. And a big portion of leaving the nest is that kind of rite of passage, right? The losing of virginity.
Yes.
Another thing is that maybe they just have a different temperament. These people who waited, they have a temperament to delay a gratification, and that ability to delay gratification, that is a predictor of health and success in your future life. That's one possible thing. It's also maybe they're just late sexual bloomers, people who don't come to really be interested in sex until a later age, and maybe they just have a weaker sex drive. Or another theory, or are they just selective? This is a quote that I really liked from the article, and it was, highly selective individuals may not be the first to bite the apple, and they may not bite the most apples, but they are more likely to get a delicious apple.
Let me add two parts here. Because A, I believe that I'm a very choosy person. I have not...
Choosy moms choose Jif. That's a peanut butter commercial.
I have not crunched a lot of crunchy peanut butter in my day. So I understand that. But here's my alternative case. These people who are highly, highly successful, highly happy in their marriage, and later to have sex, is it all because nobody wanted to bone them when they were younger? Is this their choice to wait, or is it that they could not find a partner because they were giant-ass nerds? And then, once they finally found someone to have sex with them, they're eternally grateful.
Well, that could very well be.
That's my theory. That's the cool kids theory.
But it's also, but if they're more successful, they have more education, they make more money, they're happier with their marriages, joke's on you. I'll take that shit all the way to the bank. I'll take my nerdery all the way to the bank and be very happy with my life.
Well, yes, and that digs into a whole nother conversation, where we put value on women by how much men want to sleep with them, where that's not important. That's not a priority. Give me the money, give me the success.
And the women will follow.
Well, I'm talking about as a woman. Give me the success and the money and the happiness over having a lot of dudes want to get involved with my flower.
So, okay, on the converse side of this, so back to the early, so a chaotic home life, people who are in unsafe situations, people who have, just all the sad shit, right? That they generally will come back to an early sexual encounter. They will lose their virginity before the age of 15. And one of the theories that they propose, the reason why this could be, is kind of an evolutionary biology spin. So if you're in a stable environment, you can delay that entering the sex scene. You know that your genes are protected. Your body is protected by your family, by your good situation. You know you have the chance to be choosy because you know you're going to get the opportunity to spread your seed, quote unquote, and spread and procreate. Whereas a girl or a male in a more chaotic environment, they may need to feel it, in some intrinsic or evolutionary biology way, a rush to procreate. Because you're in such a chaotic situation, you don't know that you're going to make it till the next day, the next day, the next day. So that sex drive might come from a place of being unsafe and not knowing if you're going to have a chance at tomorrow. That was a little bit of a reaching to me, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I'll say that tracks to me, but I'm going to spin it in a slightly different way, right? I do believe that unstable home life and a chaotic home life is going to make you more likely to be sexually active younger. But I don't think it's some kind of biological thing saying, I need to spread my seed. I think it comes from a lot more simpler kind of reaction where when you have sex, you have pleasure hormones and it bonds you to people initially, right off the bat. So that if you have that,
you don't have a lot of pleasure in your life, you're seeking.
Well, no, not even. Like, if you don't feel secure in your relationships, you're going to do that because it makes the bonding and it makes you feel safe.
Yeah. And
it makes other people feel bonded to you, right? So that comes from my kind of I talk about it a lot, but the bonobos, right? So the chimpanzees that make love, not war. And they just get it on all the time, and they use it to solidify their relationships. So I think that that's kind of what's happening there. I mean, it's also, we have a lot of religion and a lot of morality and a lot of those kind of things that get involved. But is sex any different than a really, really intimate hug? Like a deep hug. It's a physical thing that makes you feel good and connected to the person you're doing it with. Is it any different? So people who don't have they don't feel like they belong, they don't have the security, if they're doing it to replace that and feel bonded and feel close to somebody else. I don't think it has so much to do about spreading genes. I think it has more to do with coping with stress.
That makes sense to me. I can get behind that. And another thing that they talked about in terms of sexual behavior and factors that influence is the risk-taking gene, which is something that they have identified. It's CADM2. There are some people who are more likely to take risks based on their genetic makeup, and some people who are not.
23andMe tell me my risk-taking
It might, honestly. I don't know.
Aptitude.
I haven't.
Oh, but then I would be in the system.
I don't take those tests, as we've discussed previously.
Laura's got to stay off the grid.
I'm staying off the grid. I don't know who I'm going to murder in the future. I don't want my DNA out there.
Or who your family might murder. Charlotte, looking at you.
Exactly.
She's a sweet little baby now.
Who knows what the future will hold. But I think I don't need to take a DNA test to know that I'm less than moderately risk averse. I'm not a risk taker at a huge level.
That's fair. You know yourself. One of the categories is, do you have the gene that makes you flush when you drink alcohol? And I'm
yeah, I don't need a test for that.
Yeah, I just drink. It's a lot cheaper.
Well, I can look in the mirror.
I can feel the heat on my face.
What is it? Margaret Cho has this thing. She's like, "Are you sunburnt?" No, I'm fucked up. That's what
Speaking of, here's my wine that I'm pouring from the Dragon aerator. And so
fancy.
I poured it. And I got to kiss the aerator.
So that's the end of the research, and I didn't get so much into the the more I mean, I feel like the historical importance of virginity is something we're kind of beaten over the head with. Like, we all understand that that's how it was back in the day, that, dowries and women bought and sold. There's a lot of religious implications. There's a lot of no from your parents. I think we've all heard that, right? So I wanted to focus more on what the actual experience was like for people and what it meant kind of for their future. But there was a quote from some feminist historian that she says, quote, "Virginity reflects no known biological imperative and grants no demonstrable evolutionary advantage." End quote. Agree or disagree? Rachel?
I want to say that it has less to do with ever having sex, but wanting to know more that I am the most recent person to have sex with you. And a good way to guarantee that is by no one ever having had sex with you before. Yes. And that even goes to like a physiological expression of it, which I'm going to assume everybody here, everybody listening, has seen a dick before. Like, we've all seen it.
What? I've never seen one.
You must close your eyes because you already shared. So the shape of it is shaped as like a little Mario mushroom at the top.
Yep.
And
well, some are more,
I mean, I haven't seen a ton. There's only been a couple apples in this bunch. But the shape of it is actually to like scoop anything else.
It's sperm out.
And I mean, it's not only in humans.
Oh, that's so gross to think about in a modern context.
Yes. But I mean, we're not the only ones to have stuff like that. Dogs, which I learned about from my dog show writing days.
They have a lipstick penis.
Well,
it looks like a lipstick.
They get stuck. So after a male dog gets it on with a girl dog, they are stuck together for 30 minutes. And that is to, like, evolutionarily make sure that another male doesn't come in right after and breed the same female. And so their sperm aren't competing. You didn't know that?
You should see my face right now. Stuck for 30 minutes. I guess dogs are really into pillow talk. It's really
no, not really, because what they do is they breed, and then the males hop off and they stand butt to butt, so they don't even look at each other. They can't even look at each other in the eye after that. But they do smoke a lot of cigarettes during that time. That's comedy right there, baby.
That makes me think of, so cats' penises have barbs in them. And they like stick.
Because they're demons.
But also a female cat can have a litter from multiple partners. So no evolutionary advantage there, buddy. But okay, so back to your point is that I kind of agree with you. The biological imperative. I think that there is some biological imperative to it because, if you're going to invest your time and your resources to protect an offspring as a male, you want to know that it is in fact yours. And so that is where the biological imperative of virginity comes into play. And also, we can talk about the quote patriarchy and about how women are inherently distrustful and you can't trust them to do what they say that they're going to do, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why that premium is put on virginity, because like, oh, you can say you're a virgin, they just need to double check our work, quote unquote.
Which, yeah, I definitely think that's the case. And that's why you still to this day, if you ever venture into the wild, untamed land that is Reddit, whenever there's some kind of relationship advice where somebody says my girlfriend's pregnant, literally all these dudes hop in, get a paternity test. Get a paternity test. Like, you need to get it. It's because there's something in their brains that say, like, they cannot invest time and energy and resources into somebody else's baby. It's
that they
always
don't know is
a
theirs.
worry. But then on the inverse side of that, there's actually a tribe in South America called the Quirapaco, which I butchered the pronunciation of that. So they live on the border between Colombia and Venezuela in South America. And they actually believe, so this is where evolutionary biology is flipped on its head, that a woman, like a cat, can have different attributes of different fathers in the same baby. So women
clearly they have not been revealed to modern science.
Well, this was published in 1999. So, But it is something that tribe believed, and so women would have sex with multiple guys, hoping to get the best of each.
Yeah.
Which I think, and then they would raise it as a group. So it's just like, whatever we say is like concrete, biological, like evolutionary biology, I don't think it's always concrete because...
No, I don't think anything is concrete. Like, because sociology, you know, being around a group and their morals can shape anything, right? Like, we can be convinced that anything is normal. But I feel like, but the fact that this is one tribe, you know, in all of the world,
it definitely
really
feels like an outlier. I don't think there's another one in Paraguay. It's like of the region, I believe. It's like there's more than one. But to build on something we said in the previous episode, or a previous episode, we were talking about culture, and we said, ask a fish why it likes water so much. And we said, oh, because they don't know anything else. But really, if you asked a fish, why do you like water so much? They'd be like, what's water? They don't even know it's there because they don't know nothing else.
Yeah.
So I just had to correct myself because we just listened to that today. I'm a little behind in editing.
I hear you. I would agree with that. So, and this comes around to a previous question that you asked, you know, about Christian morals, about, you know, being of an age and being in a relationship. Does sexuality equal morality? Which a lot of people feel like it does. It's a big red flag or an indicator. And the reason why I am like, okay, you're of an appropriate age and you waited to somebody that you have feelings for, why that's important. It is. It's definitely part of my upbringing. You know, my mom told me, you know, save yourself for marriage. But even like when I was a teenager, I'm like, that's not happening, you know. But it was this idea of just, I guess, feeling safe, you know, or also of sharing an important experience of my life with someone that wasn't just a smoke in the wind, you know, that there was supposed to, it felt important to me to do this first thing with somebody that I cared about, that I wouldn't regret, and that would acknowledge the specialness of it, you know?
I see like this as a chicken and an egg situation, right? Does sexuality equal morality? In our world, yeah, because that's the culture we built, right? That it is something that's important, that you want people to be there, you want them to be mutual trust and mutual respect and mutual caring. Do you need all that, like, purely on a physiological element? Do you need that to have sex with someone and enjoy it for both of you?
Hell no. No.
So, I mean, like, if you believe in those kind of thinking and you believe in that morality and that level of teaching, then sure, yeah, I guess it does. Because if you're willing to have sex with someone that you don't respect, it contradicts those morals. But the act itself, no. I don't, you know,
there's no requirements. If you can put a penis in a vagina, check, done.
Well, no, and that everybody's on the same page and nobody's being hurt. Because there's 1,000 things we do in life that we say, that we do to feel good. Drinking this wine. Is it the best thing for me physiologically? Nah, not at all. But I'm doing it.
Heart health. It's red wine. You're good.
I hear that every glass of wine is equivalent to an hour in the gym.
100% accurate.
So I didn't work out today? Well, I did work out today. I worked out for 5 hours. I haven't had that much wine. So I think for certain people it does. I think if you subscribe to that line of thinking, I don't think it's like tied to it. I don't think it's a definite. It's a product. It's water. It's because that's where we live and that's where we swim. But it's not tied there in the grand scheme of things. And I think there's a shift in culture where we're becoming more sex positive and we're becoming more relaxed. And not just the bonobos, but the Greeks, they were having sex all the time. They didn't matter. Like, you know, they only
underage or
exactly.
Ew.
They were literally only engaging in heteronormative sex to procreate. But outside of that, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
You know, they were very much into their other activities.
But boys, right? That's a thing, right?
Younger, adolescent.
That's
so
disgusting.
It's the same thing. The way that men are attracted to teenage girls today.
Yeah, okay. Well, I get adolescent. I guess I always think of like young children, people before the age of puberty, and I'm just like, stay
yeah.
the fuck away. We
draw the hard line at if you are not through puberty, there's no sex. Anything past that that's immoral. Yeah. Whether it's kids doing it to each other because they're probably
because they have been molested. Yes, yeah, totally.
Or it's an adult doing something that is the morality thing, and that's a hard line, and that is regardless of anything in there, anything else.
Yeah,
no way.
But I feel like there's some. But I mean, when it comes to like later or early puberty, like if you're like, there's an age gap factor. You know what I mean? Like older men or women, and much younger. 15. If you're 25 and 15. Red flags across the board.
Oh, 100%. And that is definitely a product of our society today because we have extended childhood essentially until you're 28. I mean, 26. Thanks, Obama. No, just kidding. I really did. He saved me a lot of money on the health insurance. But we've extended childhood really far. So 200 years ago, a 14-year-old getting married and
ready to be
exactly
birthing.
That was adulthood. Today, a 14-year-old not even finished becoming a person yet.
Yeah.
Sorry if you're 14 and you're listening.
You have a long way to go.
Yes. And I'm really impressed that you listen to podcasts and somehow found our podcast because I don't know any 14-year-olds.
I think I have some nieces and nephews. Are you guys listening? Oh my God. That would be weird. Anyway. Good segue to the last question that we have. So, what advice would you give to a young person about sex and virginity?
About considering sex or going into
whatever you think. What advice would you give to them? She's thinking, everyone.
3 words. Spit on it.
Fair. If you don't know what that means, you're not ready.
Exactly. Or invest in some actual drugstore lubricant.
Some KY lube.
Yes. I think they should honestly, I don't want to say give that out, but I feel like if you have, okay, here's the thing. If you have not gone to see a gynecologist, do not have sex. That's kind of the prerequisite. And every gyno should be giving out lube because I feel like that's just women's health.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yes. That's just
very practical advice.
Thank you. But I would also say, also, because here we are talking about physical intercourse like we're freaking relics here. Don't take pictures of your naked body and send them to other people.
Please don't. Guys, it's in the cloud. It's everywhere. Who knows what the hell those guys are going to do with that? Don't send it to anybody ever.
It's almost like if you're going to do that, might as well just get in person.
Also get paid for it. If you're going to send your pictures for yourself, at least get paid for it.
If you're not 18, don't even take a picture. That's
that's good.
See, apparently I'm very practical because those are my practical advice. I don't know if you're wanting something more romantic and fluffy.
No.
But those are my 2 pieces of advice. But also, I think maybe, I'm thinking about it now, I don't think they store video chats. So if you're going to be engaging in cybersex, do a video call, I guess.
Rather than texting or...
Yes, because if they can
But
save
I mean, you can screenshot, Rachel.
Don't do it. Just don't do it. I mean, that could really bite you in the ass. So...
Do you have a personal experience with this?
No. Oh. Well, I have a story I can tell you, but it's not sexting. It's a very misfortunate
I know that story.
Yes.
I know that story.
With...
No comment. Okay, we're moving on.
So what would you tell these kiddos who are thinking, should I take the plunge? Should we jump over Niagara Falls and make the beast with 2 backs?
I would just... I guess it just goes back to my experience again, because that's all I can speak to, right? I wish I could be so high and mighty and enlightened and thinking about things, but I was just I know what made me feel good. And so that's what I would recommend. And you know what? That's what I'm going to tell my daughter. That when she gets of age, I'm not going to tell her, oh my God, wait for marriage. Because that's just unrealistic, right?
Marriage might be abolished by then.
I know. And so what I'm going to tell her is just wait until you, first of all, can fully understand the repercussions, because sex is a physiological act, but it has a lot of psychological implications. Maybe that's just in our society, or maybe it's our default status. I don't know which, but I know in our society it has a lot of psychological implications.
And it has physiological ones, too. That's
yes.
how she became a person in this world. That is probably the biggest thing to impart on little chillins, is just like,
be smart.
There are consequences, and I mean, the world is looking a little up and up, but you never know what these fundamentalists are going to do and how they're going to restrict your rights to turn and you might get stuck with a little baby, and that's not, I don't think, what anybody is wanting to set out to when they're 16, 17.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my top advice, is just like, you know what, if you're going to have sex. Don't be the chick who gets pregnant. Like, just have a little bit of foresight and wrap that shit. And whatever that means, you know, whether it's a condom or a birth control or whatever. And again, this is not a fair thing to say, but it's fucking true, is that in my experience, I guess maybe I can just always say that the woman is the gatekeeper of these things, because men only have enough blood to work one organ at a time. So you have to be the gatekeeper. You have to say, stop, put on a condom, or I'm going to use birth control, or just be smart about it. Because you know what, if you're going to do the deed, you're going to do the deed, but don't be left with a consequence that you're going to regret. So just be smart about it. And again, so what I would tell my daughter is to just wait until you have somebody that you think is special and thinks that you're special, and you guys can share that beautiful thing together. And also that if you... This is what I said. So my mom was always like, oh, you never know what's going to happen. Like, you might become a total jackass the next day. And hey, I was a big fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I watched season 2 of Buffy where Angel, you know, that was a parable, right? So my thing is, like, you know what? If you think that's a possibility that's going to happen the next day, but you still want to go ahead with it, like, you want it that bad, fucking do it. You know what I mean? Just know, shit goes wrong, but you would be okay with your choice. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And my 2 kind of follow-up notes, too. 1, I forgot. Anyways, that's the 1. 2nd, because you started talking about it. If I had my hypothetical child, I would tell them, yes, definitely you don't have to wait till marriage. I would say it's literally just, as long as you want to do it, in that moment, go for it. And doing it doesn't change who you are, doesn't change your value to society.
No.
I mean, it doesn't matter if you have sex with one person your whole life or 100 people your whole life. It literally does not matter. So the kind of way that I was brought up where we didn't talk about it, my mom yelled, I hope you used a rubber, like that kind of shame. It's just like, that's stupid and it's counterproductive, because I had to do a lot of work as an adult, as a married person, backstepping all of that kind of baggage, right? To be able to be just a normal human being.
So like that repressed psychology of...
Oh, yeah. Some people, well, they also, we're going to have to edit this next statement out.
Okay, go for it.
They also say stupid people are better at sex, and I 100% believe.
Why do we have to edit that out? I totally agree. It's because they can totally disregard all thought and for future consequences, because they only live in the moment.
Yes, and that.
Do I have to edit that out? I don't think I have to edit that out.
Yeah, because nobody I know is listening at this point. Or a lot of people I know are, because they're curious. Because I think this episode will pick curiosity.
But no, I completely agree with you, because if you don't have any sense of tomorrow, yeah, sure. It's going to be a great fucking time.
Yep. And that's kind of what I want to instill, because going back to the whole patriarchy, putting a lot of value on it, it's not important. And I want to make sure my kid knows that. And I want my kid, you might disagree, because you are actually a mom and you actually have a little baby that you hold in your arms. I want my kid to be able to talk to me about it. I want them to be able to tell me the day after, hey, this happened, and be able to talk to me about their feelings, if they're feeling scared or they're sad or they regret it. I want to be a support system for them. That was something we could never talk about, something we could never broach.
Yeah. I would say, yeah, I do. I would like to be that parent. But, I mean, there's a fine line. You don't want to be the friend, right? A parent who's a friend is a bad parent. Because they're not your friends. They're your parent, and they should guide you and protect you and be more invested in your future and your current well-being more than your friends are, right?
Oh, definitely.
I mean, yeah, I would like to have that conversation with my daughter if it's like 17 or older. If it's less, I feel like I'm going to be like, what the fuck are you doing? So yeah, I guess I do want to be that parent if they're older and make good decisions.
Yeah, I guess. But that comes back to what we talked about before, like this arbitrary kind of benchmark of when you're ready. And I feel like we're kind of just starting
the downward spiral.
Yes, into where we can continue that after we're done recording, but I don't know if our dear listeners are as curious about that as we are. They probably haven't had as much red wine.
Or as much gin. So I hear you. But okay, so that's it. We did it. We talked about the big V card episode.
Yes. The birds and the bees and
cigarette trees. Wait, no, that's a song. That's a lyric from Big Rock Candy Mountain. Birds and the bees and the cigarette trees and the Big Rock Candy Mountain.
I was going to say punch in the V's, but that also sounds like something you would find on a porn internet site.
The cigarette tree?
No, I said punch in the V's.
Oh, yeah. That would definitely be something on a porno site. Very aggressive. So, yeah, that was it, guys. We talked about virginity. What do you guys think? Let us know. Comment on the socials, the Instagrams, the Facebooks. I'm making them plural like old people do.
Because
it's
I
funny.
feel old.
We all feel old. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll be back at you next week with a whole new topic, a whole new impolite conversation for Impolite Society.
Impolite Society, see you next week. Get real horny for this next conversation because it's gonna be...
We don't even know what it is.
We don't.
Do you hear that? Oh, it's the drums!
It's the drums. That means it's time for us to leave you.
Sayonara.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.